It is that time of the month again, and we are back with another mock draft. This one being my third one of the year, and it is still going to be pretty different than even the one from just last month. And that's why I like to do these monthly, because there's so many different things that are happening. Certain players that had high hopes coming in, they kind of fall off. Some players that were kind of more unknown really have great seasons, and they get higher up in the rankings, and it really changes a lot of things all the way up until the end of the season. So even from this mock draft, I'm sure it's going to change a lot from the next one, but so far, this is basically what I've been able to put together, and I am very excited about it, and these are some of my favorite videos to make, because there's always so many different opinions on players. Everybody thinks different players better than him, and it's always just a cool conversation to have, and I really just enjoyed that aspect of it. Plus, there's so many different players you can dive into and have opinions on. It's just a really fun process to go through, in my opinion, the whole scouting of all the players. And before I do get in the video, I do want to say two things. One, this is how I got the draft order, the draft lottery order. I used Tankathon. This is the video of me doing it. Certain things happened in it that were interesting, okay? So yeah, this is the draft order we're going to be using. And then secondly, all these rankings are purely my own opinion. I don't use other people's mock drafts or anything like that. I just scout the players, and however I rank the players, that's how I go. And I go by drafting them not just by who I think is the best and going in order from like 1 through 14th best. I kind of go by need of teams, and I have reasons to why they pick them. It's not just best available every single time. So I'm getting into the reasons I pick the players as well. But with all that out of the way, without much further ado, let's get right into this video.
With the first pick, the Utah Jazz select
Cooper Flagg. Now, Cooper Flagg, in my own opinion, I think is the second best player in this class. I think the top three are basically solidified, and I think the top three are very, very close and are all going to be very good players. And in my opinion, Cooper Flagg overall is the second best player in this class, and that is no dig to him. I still think he's a superstar. I think he's going to be amazing going forward, but I really think he fits Utah very, very well. I mean, like, he has, like I said, superstar ceiling. I think him and Lauri Markkanen, assuming they keep Lauri around, would be a very good fit together, as he can play small forward and power forward, and Lauri is more of just a power forward. So you can really play them two together, and it would give you a lot of height, a lot of width. Then you add on top of the fact that they have Walker Kessler as their center. Really, their forward and big man positions would pretty much be solidified all the way through, because they even at their bench, they have Cody Williams, Taylor Hendricks, and other players like that are going to help them a lot going forward. And then you really just have to kind of figure out your guard situation going forward from there. And even with guys like Keontae George, Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, Isaiah Collier, they got so many guards on that roster, they're going to have to figure that out. And I think they're going to need a few years to really figure that out. So that is why I have them not selecting a guard right here. And I think that you would be better off kind of just figuring out what they have in their guards, picking a solidified superstar in Cooper Flagg who's going to fit their system and the way they want to play. And I just think he would be an amazing fit, number one overall, to the Utah Jazz.
with the second pick, the Charlotte Hornets select
Ace Bailey. Now, Ace Bailey, in my opinion, is the best player in this draft class. His ceiling is through the roof. He is an unbelievable athlete, and he is 6'10". He is a freak of nature with how athletic he is, plus his size. And then on top of that, his defense is already elite. His offense, some people have questions of it because he takes tough shots, but he also makes those tough shots. He's a very efficient scorer as well. So I do think he has tons of upside on both sides of the ball, and his three-point shooting is already there for a 6'10" freak athlete who's good on defense is huge. And I think overall, Ace Bailey's ceiling is just unbelievably through the roof, and I can't see how he's not the best player in this draft class. You can't tell me about it. I've seen them both play. I've watched tons and tons of film on him and Flagg, and I just think Bailey's the better player. Simple as that. I could be wrong. I'm very open to being wrong, but I won't know that until they're both in the NBA. And I think Ace Bailey would be a perfect fit here, because not only do I think he's the best player, but I do think he fits with them very well. Because imagine a big three of LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and Ace Bailey. With Brandon Miller and Ace Bailey alone, you have two very good sized guys with unbelievable two-way potential, and gives them three potential superstars combined onto one roster. Plus, you have a guy like Mark Williams, who's a beast down low with athleticism, blocking shots. He's been scoring a lot better recently. He's looked amazing. And then you add on the fact that you still have guys like Miles Bridges on the roster and other guys like Grant Williams, Seth Curry. Like, you're going to start building out a pretty damn good team. And if the Ace Bailey works out the way I think he will, your trio could legitimately one day become a NBA Finals contending big three if you build the correct team around them.
With the third pick, the New Orleans Pelicans select
Dylan Harper. Now, Dylan Harper, in my opinion, the third best player in this class, hands down, and he finishes out the top 3 in this class, where I think they're kind of a level above everybody else. Dylan Harper is just an absolute beast, a pure scorer, can just score out of his mind. He passes the ball well. Defensively, he's good. He's very strong, very athletic for a guard, has great size for a guard, can play point guard or shooting guard. It's probably more of a point guard, but can still play either one. I think he's just a great player to have on your team. He's going to make any team better. He could be the Pelicans' long-term CJ McCollum replacement as well. Him and DeJounte Murray might be a weird fit together, but I think they could definitely work it out. And just overall, I don't think you can pass up Dylan Harper here if you're the Pelicans, because look at what they already have. You have guys like Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram still on the roster, CJ McCollum, DeJounte Murray, Evans, Missy. You have a lot of guys. So really the only options was either a center, like a legit good starting center for the long term that has a high ceiling, or go guard, because that's probably going to be your most immediate need when CJ McCollum does leave you. And I think Dylan Harper is just way too good to pass up. You have to pick him here. I think he fits them perfectly. I just think overall he would make them a very scary team. And imagine a team of DeJounte Murray, Dylan Harper, Zion Williamson, and even Trey Murphy all on the same team. That's going to be a very, very, very dangerous roster, assuming that Zion can stay healthy.
with the fourth pick, the Utah Jazz select
Kasparis Jakionis, okay? I know I butchered it. Don't comment it in the comment section. I know I butchered his name. I'm from South Louisiana. How am I supposed to pronounce that, okay? That's ridiculous. I'm just going to be calling him Kasparis for the remainder of this video. But Kasparis is a undeniably just elite shot maker. He can draw fouls with the best of them, which is very good for today's NBA. He has very good basketball IQ. He would be a perfect shooting guard for them. He would probably be their Jordan Clarkson replacement, honestly, and I think long-term will probably be their starting shooting guard because the dude can just flat out score the ball, and he would be kind of a different pace guy than what they're used to. Like, Colin Sexton's a fast-paced guy who can score, and Jordan Clarkson's a fast-paced guy that can score, but that's really the only one that plays at a super fast pace. And although Kasparis isn't super fast and doesn't play super fast, in the half court, he can get to his own spots whenever he wants to. He would fit with Laurie. He would fit with Cooper Flagg, who they would have already picked in the scenario. He would fit with Walker. He would just fit very, very well on this team. And I just think overall, Kasparis would be almost too good to pass up at this point for Utah, because I think he has legit star potential as well. And if you can have a draft class where you get Kasparis and Cooper Flagg in it, you can't ask for a much better draft class if you're the Utah Jazz from there. And then, I mean, on top of it, I would say Kasparis and Cooper are very much in line with Utah's Mormon values. So, yeah, they'd be finishing off the white boy starting lineup, basically. That's not why I picked him. It's just kind of how it worked out. But yeah, so I think Kasparis would fit this team very, very well. And overall, it's just a very solid pick here. And like I said, legit star potential because of how good he can be on the offensive side of the ball.
With the fifth pick, the Washington Wizards select
Liam McNeely out of UConn. Now, hear me out on this. I know this would make sense if they still have Kuzma. This is me assuming they're going to get rid of Kuzma in a trade. At some point, he's going to be off the roster before the draft. And I think Liam McNeely would be a great replacement for that. And I also think he would be a great player alongside Alex Sarr, because Alex Sarr, I think, has very high potential. He's flashed it many times. Defensively, he's already been very, very good. And offensively, he's definitely been improving as the year goes on. And I think Liam McNeely as a running mate with him, either as a power forward or small forward, would be a great guy to have, because he has very good size. He can score the ball when he needs to. He's pretty solid on defense as well, and I just think overall he'd be a solid fit. Now, Liam McNeely might never be like a star or superstar level player or anything like that, but I do think he'd be a very good role player and teammate with him. And with the players that they have left on here, like, the Wizards are in a weird position because you're not going to pick a shooting guard, which this draft class has a ton of that are very good, because you have Jordan Poole, and he's looked much better this year, and he looks like a guy you can help build around. You're not going to pick a power forward, probably, or a center, should I say, because you have Alex Sarr. You're going to trade Giannis, so you might draft one, but you don't want to draft a backup center with the 5th overall pick. If you're getting rid of Kuzma, you're going to have to replace him, and he's a pretty big part of their team. They already have Bilal Coulibaly at small forward. They have Malcolm Brogdon for point guard right now, so their weakest position's power forward. I like Liam McNeely. I think it makes sense here. I think he would fit with Alex Sarr pretty well as well, and I just think overall this would be a pretty solid place for him to go.
with the sixth pick, the Toronto Raptors select
Ben Saraf. Now, Ben Saraf's out of Israel, and he plays very good. Like, imagine Denny Avangita's what he was supposed to be coming out of the class, out of his draft class. Imagine that. And that's what Ben Suref is. He can do everything. He can score at all three levels. He's a very good defender. He's a pretty solid athlete. He can play shooting guard or small forward for any team. And he's just overall an extremely solid player. And he's going to probably be a player that comes in right away and is able to play right away because he's already playing professional competition and he's doing very well against them. And I just think overall, Ben Suref legitimately could be one of the very, very good a high level role player in the NBA. That's how high I am on him. And getting that 6 overall is definitely very beneficial. And if you're able to get a starting lineup that looks something like it would be Jamal Shed, Grady Dick, Ben Suref, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl, something along those lines next year, and even Mogbo off your bench, George Kamchi off your bench, a few other guys off your bench that you have, like Jacoby Walter and things like that. You could have a very fun young team going forward, and I think they would make one of the more fun young cores in the entire NBA. And Denny Avengita, where he is right now, I think that is Ben Suref's basically floor. I think he has a much higher ceiling. I didn't like Denny coming in that much because I thought his ceiling was limited, and he's kind of been stuck where he's at now for the past few years. But Ben Suref, I think, is going to come in at this floor, and maybe not right away, but eventually get to this floor and keep surpassing it as it goes on. And I think he's going to be a great pick for the Toronto Raptors here at number 6.
With the 7th pick, the Brooklyn Nets select
Trey Johnson. Now, the reason I have them selecting Trey Johnson here is because it gives them a guy to really put a spark into this franchise. Like, this franchise is really dull right now. There's nothing going for it. Their best players, D'Angelo Russell or Cam Johnson. Ben Simmons is washed up. It's over. He can maybe be a role player on a team, but he's never looking like he's ever getting back to the Ben Simmons of old. So that's not going to work out. They have Nick Claxton, who's cool. Derek Whitehead's cool. Jalen Wilson is cool. Clowney's even okay. But, they don't have any, thing that gets you super excited. But getting a guy like Trey Johnson, just an absolute bucket off your, on your team immediately, he would immediately interject energy into this team. He has legit star potential if his ceiling hits, and he's just gonna be a guy that fans and players are gonna really want to play with. He's almost like a very energetic leader type guy, and it looks like Trey Johnson would just fit with this team very well, and it would just really, like I said, just really maybe give a spark and light a fire under this team finally and really get them moving in the right direction, because you get a potential leader, a potential star level player, swing for the fences type guy who can really help your team. And even if he doesn't end up being a star, he's still going to be very fun to watch due to how he plays the game of basketball, and he's probably going to be a solid player no matter what. And I just think overall this pick would make a lot of sense for a team like the Brooklyn Nets.
with the 8th pick, the Portland Trailblazers select
The Nipple Knipple, okay? Now, look, I love the way that you can say his name. I love the nipple, okay? That sounds crazy. But anyway, he's a very good, solid player, shooting guard, small forward. I think he would fit this team pretty good. Probably never going to be a star, but I do very much see a high-level role player in his future. He has very good two-way potential. He's definitely would be filling in their weakest position, which is the shooting guard / small forward position, especially if they're moving on from Anthony Simons into the future. And I just think overall, Knipple would fit this team extremely, extremely well. And I mean, also, he's more of like a skill over athleticism type of guy, which is a kind of nice change of pace for this Portland team, because right now they have a whole bunch of freak athletes. Like, look who they have. They have Shadion Sharp on their team, Jeremy Grant on their team, Scoot Henderson on their team, and they have someone else, but I'm just forgetting them. But they have a whole bunch of very, very good athletes, but not a whole bunch of highly skilled guys yet. They're still trying to develop those freak athletes into highly skilled guys. And I think getting a guy like Knipple, who's a different change of pace, who's already at that skill level, could really help benefit and help kind of develop the other guys and relieve some pressure off of those younger guys and help them kind of flourish even more. Because if you get a guy that can shoot and has more skill around those guys, it's going to take a lot of the defensive pressure off of those Shadion Sharps, off of those Scoot Hendersons of the world, and it's going to make a lot more, the world a lot easier for those type of guys on the Portland Trailblazers. I just think overall he would fit on this team pretty well.
With the 9th pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder select
Noah Osangu. Now look, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to somehow find themselves in the top 10 of every single NBA draft at this point, and they're using Philadelphia's pick for this one, and I think Noah Osangu would be a perfect pick for the Oklahoma City Thunder here. And the reasons being because anybody that the Thunder pick, they basically have to have a super high ceiling, because the Thunder have such a good team through and through from top to bottom that it is going to be almost impossible for a rookie to really break into the rotation at this point, especially in year one. And a guy like Noah Songu, one is probably their weakest backup position. Like, we're not even drafting for starters, obviously. We're drafting for backups for this Oklahoma City Thunder team because that's how good they are. And I think their guard position is basically solidified. They have Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, they are very deep at that position. They don't need a guard. Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein are holding down the big man positions for now. Jalen Williams is a great power forward / small forward for right now. And just, their only weak position, even off their bench, is their backup power forward position with the other Jalen Williams. And he's not bad, but I don't think he fully fits what this team wants. And I think a guy like Noah Songu would, because I think he would be a great fit alongside Chet Holmgren with being a 6'8", highly skilled guy who can play a power forward or small forward. His two-way potential is through the roof. He has legitimate star potential if he hits, and he's just an overall extremely fun prospect to have. And I think he's a guy that you have to swing for the fences for, and this is probably your best bet at this point. I just think overall this would be the guy you go for if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think he'd be a damn near perfect fit for them going long term into the future.
And with the 10th pick, the Chicago Bulls select
Adou Thiero. Now, this is probably where things are going to start getting a little controversial in this bitch, okay? Chicago, in my opinion, is just in a very weird situation. They have like a combination of young guys, veterans, in a very weird way that makes it kind of hard to say what their weakest position is, who they need. But I would say probably a shooting guard / small forward is what they need the most. And a guy that can just come out, defend the ball, have great energy, and have a chance to be a very good two-way player. Because he's already an amazing defender and a great athlete. They already have that. But I'm not just saying that because like that's what they need. That is legitimately what he is. And he's a very good scorer despite not having a three ball at this point. He's an extremely good finisher and even has a solid mid-range game. His three-point shot this year has just fallen off of a cliff, which makes a lot of people concerned. And I mean, it is a point of concern, but in prior years, he shot at least low 30s. Like, it's not as bad as it is right now. So I'm hoping he can get back to that fairly quickly and keep even building upon it and getting past that. Because if this dude gets a three-point shot, he's going to be one of the best 3-and-D players in the NBA because he's that good on defensive side of the ball. So if he can just become a decent three-point shooter where you have to respect it, he's going to be very, very dangerous. And I think his ceiling's very high. And I think playing with a guy like Joshua Giddey and Lonzo Ball would be very helpful for having people that can really pass him into open spots and give him in very good situations. Because right now, he's not playing with any true point guards. He's playing with like Boogie Flan, who's a very much ball-dominant guard. And it's just a weird team Arkansas has this year, and I don't think the environment is conducive of helping him shoot the ball, and I think that's part of it. So maybe with playing with more pass-first guys and NBA-style play, he should be able to fit with his team a lot more. And I think he has a very good NBA ceiling, and his overall it would be a very solid pick here, 11th overall.
with the 11th pick, San Antonio Spurs select
Donnie Freeman. Now, I think this would be an amazing pick for the San Antonio Spurs because I think he would be a very good fit alongside Wembanyama. Now, he wouldn't play or start year one by any means because Jeremy Sohan is a very solid player. But Donnie Freeman is a very skilled, highly talented power forward who off the bench would be an unbelievable fit with him. Because if you have two big, skilled big men like power forward and center, because you have Wembanyama and now Freeman, that would be very hard to deal with. Now, look, I'm not saying Freeman is even anywhere near Wembanyama, obviously. But I think his future is super, super high. He has a very high ceiling, like I said. And just overall, he plays similarly to Wembanyama. And I think their two-way potential would be unbelievable when they're on the floor together. It would be very hard for a power forward and center duo to match up with them two in any given night because of how skilled they are on the offensive side of the ball. And I think it would give teams absolute fits to try to have to deal with that, especially as Donnie Freeman and Wembanyama build chemistry and get to know how each other play together. I think it would be almost impossible to guard after a while. And on top of it, they're both very solid defenders, and Wembanyama is a generational defender, so it's going to be very hard to compete with them on either side of the ball. I just think overall, Donnie Freeman would be an unbelievable get if you were the San Antonio Spurs here.
with the 12th pick, the Miami Heat select
Ian Jackson. Now, Ian Jackson has been playing very good as of late for the North Carolina Tar Heels. And overall, he's just a very solid scorer. He can basically do a little bit of everything. He's definitely more of a scorer than anything. And I think I'm envisioning that more as a starting point guard or shooting guard off the bench. Because obviously Tyler Hero, with how good he's playing, is going to be their starting shooting guard going forward in the future. But then you look at the rest of their team, their power forward and center position is basically figured out. Khalil Ware looks like probably the rookie of the year. Bam Adebayo is Bam Adebayo. He's going to be fine, even though he's having a slump right now. Small forward, probably their weakest position with Jimmy Butler out, but he hasn't been traded yet, so it's hard to know what's going to even happen there. I want to see what they get before I try to replace him. And then, I mean, he can play point guard as well, Ian Jackson, but that's probably their biggest weakness. They have Terry Rozier and Tyler Hero, and that is it, and nothing off the bench. And I think for the first few years, at least, Ian Jackson would be a great scorer off their bench and give them a spark off their bench, which this team desperately needs. And I think, yes, there probably could be better fits like short term, but long term, having a guy like Ian Jackson on your team is probably pretty beneficial, and he's probably one of the best players left available at this point in the class, in the lottery, if you are the Miami Heat, especially with a team that doesn't like to rebuild. They don't like to tank or anything. And I think Ian Jackson would be a pretty good pick to not tank for, because you're now getting a great player off your bench, which every team desperately needs if you're trying to win at a high level.
With the 13th pick, the Golden State Warriors select
Isaiah Evans out of Duke. Now, hold up. Before y'all commented that he's not even start for Duke, before you commented, let me explain, okay? In my opinion, Isaiah Evans is a beast. He's going to be a beast. I know he doesn't play a lot for Duke, but recently he's been playing a lot more, and Duke literally hasn't lost a game where he has played in, and he is starting to get a lot more minutes, and his numbers are starting to go up. So if you look at his season averages, they're not that great because he started off the year, since he's a freshman, not getting that many minutes for Duke. But as the year has gone on, he slowly started getting more and more minutes, and his numbers in those games have very much followed the increase in minutes. So he is a good player. His ceiling is unbelievably high. If you watch him play, he's very solid at the small forward position, and I think that's exactly why I would get him, because I think he has such a high ceiling that the Warriors would very much benefit from having a guy like him, probably for the first few years off their bench, but then in the long term, having a guy at the small forward position who can just go out and get a bucket whenever you need him to. He's an elite three-point shooter, can score at all three levels, pretty solid two-way potential due to his size. I just think he'd be a great pick for them and would fit their system perfectly. And I think he is a perfect Golden State Warriors player, and he would just be a great pick for them. I know a lot of people are going to hate this pick, and rightfully so, because he doesn't come off the bench, and this is kind of a swing for me, but I just have a lot of faith in Isaiah Evans as a player.
With the 14th pick, the Houston Rockets select
Danny Wolf. Now, this, once again, is probably going to be a pretty controversial pick, but I love Danny Wolf as a player. Watch him play. He is a perfect modern big, and I've hit on guys already like Quentin Post, Khalil Ware, I loved in the draft. I'm pretty good at picking big men that are going to be good, and Danny Wolf, to me, I liked him in Yale 2 years ago, but he was too small of a name. He really was. His numbers still weren't there fully yet at Yale. But since he's moved to Michigan, his numbers are there. And if you watch him play, he just pops off the screen. Defensively, he can legitimately guard 1 through 5. He is unbelievably good at defense because he's pretty athletic and pretty fast for his height. And then on top of all that, his offensive skill set is so good for the big man position that I think Danny Wolf would be a perfect player for the Houston Rockets. Because right now, the Houston Rockets do have a highly skilled big man in Alperen Sengun. The problem is Sengun is only 6'9". He can't block shots. Defensively, they struggle a lot due to it. And when you get stuck in a situation where one team has a Jokic, where Sengun literally just can do nothing about it and you have to double at all times, that puts you in a very vulnerable situation as a defense, especially in a playoff scenario, going against such an elite player like Jokic or any other elite big man of the league like Embiid, Karl-Anthony Towns, players like that Sengun simply cannot guard due to his size. So if you have a very highly skilled guy like Danny Wolf who can do everything, those scenarios no longer hurt you as much because now you put the 7-footer in there. You don't lose that much skill because Danny Wolf has a lot of skill, but you gain the size, you gain the defense, and I think that's a huge get for the Houston Rockets and would almost put them over the edge of becoming a high-level playoff contender because I love what they've done in the draft. When they drafted Cam Whitmore and Amon Thompson, I would almost nut it. They are an excellent drafting team as of late, and I love almost all their drafts they've had in the past besides Usman Garuba. I hated that draft. That draft was terrible. The Usman Garuba pick was nightmarish. But outside of that, they are a very good drafting team. And I think Danny Wolf would almost pretty much put this team over the edge for the future to have the best young core in the NBA, second best young core in the NBA besides the Thunder, and legit make them contenders going into the future if Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and guys like that can develop how I think they're going to. But overall, I think this pick would be perfect for them. But unfortunately, guys, that's going to be it for this video. So, Combo, do you agree with my picks? I know you definitely disagree with a few of them as well. So, Combo, what do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What do you think should have been higher? Any thoughts in the comment section below? And if you like, point the like button, subscribe button, you absolute word to me. And I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day, so you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.